It is Saturday, February 5, 2022. A very warm welcome, our viewers. This is Shimelis Gebremichael with UMD News Package. While inviting you all to stay with the program, UMD News team highly appreciate the constructive feedbacks you are providing at our email address, newstips2020umd@gmail.com. Please keep on doing so. We want to hear more from you as we strive to improve our services. UMD extensively works in understanding, measuring, and doing matters. Our news package dwell on asking the 5 W's and 8 questions, while we always check if the information is balanced, factual, and truthful. Here are what are making the headlines over the last couple of days in Ethiopia and the Horn. Guterres asked for immediate cessation of hostilities in Ethiopia. Ethiopian drone diplomacy is still in progress as citizens in the country extremely suffer. Molly Fee says there is a room for diplomatic solution in Sudan, while Republican senators contradicted. And now, the news in detail. National Dialogue Commission nominees made public. The House of People's Representatives yesterday announced nominated candidates to the Commission for National Dialogue. A total of 42 Ethiopians are nominated. The House announced that the public is invited to remark on the nominations between February the 4th, 2022 and February 8th, 2022. According to the information displayed at Borkenna online newspaper, only 11 commissioners are expected to be appointed from the 42 individuals. Few among the list of the nominees are Professor Terusau Tefera, Bedilu Akjira, Professor Afork Bekele, Semeny Zagaye, Asfau Abdi, and Ambassador Taddelej Haile Mikhail. Despite the appreciations by many on the move towards the national dialogue and reconciliation, some put the approach to be partisanship, which might only favor the incumbent government of Ethiopia. Moving to the next news, key figures in Tigray assess region's current stance and future moves. Prominent personalities, including representatives of political parties, assess Tigray's past move and prospects for the future. In a 3-hour panel discussion, Dr. Gebremichael Gebremeskel, Mercy Ekedan, Hailu Kabeda, and Kubrom Berha indicated that the genocidal war in Tigray is still in progress with different forms and more intensity. The panelists intensely scrutinized how invaders have been executing the genocidal project and how it is still in progress in different forms and intensity. According to the panelists, the political dialogue of the war on Tigray is meant to leave Tigray with no administration, viable territorial integrity, and vibrant people, among other things. Admitting the complexities of the challenge that Tigray faced, the political administration and strategies need to be revised and reshaped in a manner that could benefit the people of Tigray. You can view their deliberation with UMD's Getachew Asafa in Tigrinya language for more information. Similar deliberations are expected to be conducted by UMD by engaging experts and representatives of the ruling Tigray People's Liberation Front officials and other professionals. Guterres asked for immediate cessation of hostilities in Ethiopia. The United Nations Secretary General on Tuesday made the strongest possible appeal for all parties in Ethiopia to immediately end the fighting in Tigray and other areas. The Secretary General made the remark in the spirit of the General Assembly's Olympic truce, which began recently. Speaking to journalists in New York, Antonio Guterres said that it would allow for effective humanitarian access and relief to all affected populations throughout Ethiopia. According to the Secretary General, these actions will help pave the way to much needed inclusive national dialogue involving all Ethiopians. Other people continue to suffer greatly from ongoing conflict and bloodshed. As the UN chief prepares to leave for the Winter Olympics, he reiterated his appeal to all parties to follow the finest tradition of Olympic spirit to save lives, overcome differences, and find the path to real peace. The United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF report indicates that drought in Ethiopia will leave more than 6.8 million people in need of urgent humanitarian assistance by mid-March. Latest reports are also revealing that 3 consecutive failed rainy seasons have brought on severe drought in the lowland regions of Afar, Oromia, southern nations, nationalities, and people state, as well as Somali. In a similar development, Uhuru echoes UN's call for urgent truce. In Ethiopia, humanitarian crisis has increased as hunger exacerbates the situation. President Uhuru Kenyatta has appealed to all parties involved in the ongoing conflict in Ethiopia to cease hostilities. In a statement on Wednesday, the president said that Kenya occurs with concurs with the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, in calling for a ceasefire and pave way for negotiations. According to Uhuru, the ongoing conflict has continued to rob and deprive the people of Ethiopia and dignity and honor inherently interwoven in the cultural civilization of the nation. The online source, the Star newspaper, quoted the president as saying that the promise of a peaceful, secure, and stable Ethiopia would only be realized by the ability of all parties in Ethiopia to surmount challenges in ways that are both sustainable and acceptable to all the people of Ethiopia. Indeed, all inclusive national dialogue conducted in a spirit of compromise and accommodation will go a long way in easing the burden of conflict to all affected communities throughout Ethiopia, Uhuru reiterated. African Union summit is well in progress in Addis Ababa and expected to focus on rights and justice issues. The African Union AU summit is scheduled for February 5 and 6, 2022, that is today and tomorrow. African leaders meeting in Addis Ababa are expected to give priority in addressing the rampant abuses occurring in the conflict in Ethiopia between Tigray and the Ethiopian forces, as well as Eritrea. A statement issued in connection with the summit indicated that many violations Ethiopia's warring parties are war crimes, and some many amount to crime against humanity. Despite recently allowing limited humanitarian supplies to enter Tigray via air, the federal government has for 7 months maintained an effective siege on the region, preventing millions of people from accessing food, medicine, cash, and fuel, as well as basic services. According to Kenenza Nantulia, Africa Advisory Director, AU member states should not ignore the serious crimes committed by all warring parties, including federal government forces in Ethiopia's conflict. Sources notified UMD media that the summit is expected to discuss on other pressing continental matters as well. In a similar development in East Africa, U.S. envoy for Horn of Africa concludes regional tour. The U.S. Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa, David Satterfield, concludes his visit to Kenya, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Turkey, and Israel yesterday. Satterfield's visit, intended to garner support for democratic civilian rule in Sudan and the regional peace in the Horn of Africa, especially in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. This follows meetings between Satterfield and leaders and pro-democracy activists in Sudan, Saudi Arabia, and Ethiopia last week. In Sudan, Satterfield met with the families of those killed during the anti-coup protests. Satterfield's predecessor stepped down last month over frustrations with Ethiopian and Sudanese leaders' inability to peacefully solve their country's political crisis. Before the UN considers resuming international aid to Sudan, it wants to end to the killing of anti-coup protesters and guarantee the transition to democratic rule. However, a return to democratic rule in Sudan in the medium term is slim, as long as Ethiopia's domestic conflict is backed by regional powers. In turn, a strong Ethiopian government would distract from Sudan's plight, as Ethiopia and Egypt stand off over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam Jerd. Further expect is the appointment of a new Chinese special envoy to the Horn of Africa to fuel US-China competition for influence in the region. Italy suspends military cooperation with Ethiopia. Italy's Ministry of Defense announced that it ceased any type of activity foreseen in the cooperation agreement with Ethiopia in light of the degenerating situation in Tigray. Minister of Defense Lorenzo Guerini recently pointed out that when the conflict broke out, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation gave a negative opinion to the request for authorization received by the National Authority WAMA. That was pertaining to the unit for the authorization of armament materials regarding the export of any armament or dual-use material to Ethiopia, as it could not exclude the risk of use in the context of hostilities in progress. According to Panorama Media, Italy has interrupted the military cooperation with Addis Ababa and has also blocked the arms trade in the country devastated by a bloody civil war that in a year and 3 months has claimed tens, if not hundreds of thousands of victims. And now we will move to one news piece which we have chosen for today to look into more detail. That is, Ethiopian drone diplomacy still in progress as citizens in the country extremely suffer. Drone diplomacy is what we are hearing repeatedly as of late. This is a phenomenon having centered primarily on the export of drones. It has been coined in some instances as drone diplomacy, which in a sense is an integration of foreign and drone policy. Despite the all fledged confrontations of armed forces within the country and beyond, the over 15 months full fledged war in Ethiopia is still affecting millions of citizens. Local, regional, and international organizations have continued to report the death of innocent civilians and the destruction of infrastructures, possibly because of drone diplomacy. Among the recent report is the one by Salam Solomon, an award-winning multimedia reporter and editor with the Voice of America. Salem, in her recent report, reaffirmed that Ethiopia ups the use of drone strike in conflict, prompting worries about civilian toll. Reports are repeatedly reiterating that drone diplomacy is escalating, with some irresponsible political leaders assuming office in Africa. The analytical and deep report has primarily commenced its argument by pinpointing the recent attack on workers in a flour mill in Tigray. It was very sad to see such a weaponized drones bombardment against innocent civilians. That key toll of combating Ethiopia's war has left 17 victims, mostly women, on January the 10th near Mai Sabri, a town in Tigray region. That happened as people gathered to grind grain. Witnesses say the unmanned aerial vehicles floated above the mill and then attacked. According to an account from a reporter at Agence France Presse, the drones came and hovered a bit before dropping bombs. Then people panicked, but after some minutes, everyone heard huge shouting, and they went to the scene to see that women and donkeys died. The United Nations say since the start of 2020, at least 110 civilians have been killed as a result of Ethiopian Air Force attacks in the Tigray region. Some attacks targeted camps for refugees and displaced people. Wim Wiesenberg is a humanitarian disarmament project leader with PAX, where Salem has contacted for this report. Wim says the Netherlands-based organization that studies global conflict and research the use of military technology. He worries other countries may follow Ethiopia's lead and use drones to address domestic challenges, military or otherwise. Despite communication blackout in the Tigray region, international experts like uh, Zuzenberg sought tangible evidence to confirm where drones were being used and what types. In particular, they wanted to know where the drones were stationed and if they were being operated from neighboring Eritrea, where the United Arab Emirates has a military base in uses in the fight against Houthi rebels in Yemen. Zunenberg said that there is evidence that Ethiopia is now on the drone diplomacy list. He says increasing flight traffic over the summer in and out of Ethiopia from Iranian airplanes. It is with the diplomatic profanity that the Ethiopian government has recently issued a document meant to improve its diplomatic ties with the West and other regional and international organizations. Given this dangerous drone diplomacy, will it be a reality? We will wait and see. In any case, the report further explained drone-based diplomacy in the region. We invite you all to read from February the 2nd, 2022 edition of the VOA. And then we now move into the remaining couple of news that we're left with. EHRC accuses Oromia forces of having killed Karrayu Oromo elders. Dear viewers, we would like to first earnestly apologize for not fully reporting the EHRC's report on Karrayu Oromo elders on our last February the 2nd, 2022 2's news package. We accessed the report right before we go live. It was at the end of November last year. More than a dozen civilians were killed in the East Shoa zone of the Oromia region. Among the killed were elders of the Karayu Oromo group. After about 2 months of the incident, therefore, the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission (EHRC) has released a report about the killing of the Karayu Oromo elders. However, the Oromia regional government, in its statement, has been accusing an armed group of the Oromo Liberation Army (OLA) to be behind the incident. EHRC's report points its finger towards the government forces. It is to be recalled that Oda Turbi, Ola's spokesperson statement issued immediately after the incident, denying the accusation. According to AHRC's recent report, Oromia Regional Security Forces extrajudicially murdered the Karayu Oromo elders. The commission indicated that it has visited the crime scene and conducted interviews with locals of the area. EHRC says Oromia security forces arrested 14 civilians, including Karayu elders, at the end of November last year. The Commission has therefore called upon Oromia regional government to launch an investigation into the incident and bring the perpetrators to justice. Oromo leaders have for long been calling for justice for murdered Karayu Oromo elders. Jawar Mohammed, newly released Oromo politician dressed up like a Karayu elder during his first public appearance last month, is one among these prominent figures. His party, Oromo Federalist Congress, in its statement also condemned the incident and demanded justice. Many condemn the tactics by the incumbent government of committing various heinous crimes and pointing its fingers towards others. Mostly, the Oromo activists are currently portraying their anger following the report and demanding for more investigation of other crimes in Oromia in particular and the country in general, as crises still rage the country. And finally, Molly Fee says there is a room for diplomatic solution in Sudan, but the Republican senators have contradicted her thoughts. U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Africa Affairs Molly Fee said on Tuesday the situation in Sudan makes it possible to reach a diplomatic solution for the Sudanese crisis and bring the military to resolve a domestic transition. The U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee held a hearing on U.S. policy in the wake of the October 25th coup in Sudan, where they expressed their frustration and disappointment for the lack of strong measures against the Sudanese military. In her testimony before the Senate, Fee explained that they posed economic assistance. In addition, they are preparing new measures aiming to reduce funds available to the Sudanese military, including targeting the military-controlled companies and sanctioning those who deal with them. According to the recent report by Sudan Tribune, some Republican senators have criticized this soft approach, saying that it is failure of Biden administration to deal with the Sudanese military and called for targeted individual sanctions. In her response to similar criticism, Morley stated that she believes the current conditions in Sudan still allow to smartly bringing back the democratic transition in Sudan. Well, that brings us to the end of the news package for today. This has been Shimelis Gebremichael here at UMD Media. Please do not forget to like and share our program and subscribe to our channel. You can follow our programs also through other platforms in order to become the first. Please do like and share our programs. You can easily reach us via our email address as well, newstips2020@gmail.com, for any of your information and news tips as well. Thank you for watching and have a good one.